I know you're excited. I'm excited because it's been 11 months and it comes down to tomorrow.
Yes. Nikki Haley in Iowa. Did you see the news about Nikki Haley? What is about half of Nikki Haley supporters would actually, if Nikki Haley is out, they'd vote for Joe Biden. What more do you need to know, honestly? Well, happy Monday and happy Martin Luther King Day here in the United States of America. Remember, it's important to treat a person based on the content of their character and not the color of their skin, unless you're a Democrat, in which case you should go stand in a schoolhouse door somewhere. See if we can get Jim Crow laws back on the books. Joe Biden would go with that. Remember, he didn't want his kids going to school in a racial jungle. Bam, bam, ba-dam, bam. The Democrats now love the Houthis. It's kind of funny who they love. They're the most hateful group of people you're going to find anywhere, and at least in Western civilization. The left, the Democrat Party, most hateful group of people you're going to find anywhere. But they've found categories of people, groups of people they can love, and that's Hamas and the Houthis, genocidal, radical Islamic jihadi terror groups. They've got the love and the admiration and the appreciation of the Democrat Party here in the United States, and they were violently supporting the Houthis and Hamas at the White House on Saturday, forcing the evacuation of the White House. And our news media, they didn't think it was much of a big deal, really. Now, we were just talking to Steve, former Air Force, who I met at an event a while back, and he made reference to the town hall coverage. And Town Hall does, in fact, have coverage of the story. Matt Vespa, the very good Matt Vespa, very solid reporter Matt Vespa at Town Hall. Another liberal narrative just disintegrated in Vermont. And it is, I saw the story at Front Page magazine over the weekend. Front Page had the story, and Front Page is also making reference to a local publication in Vermont, Moonlight in Vermont. But Front Page, the greatest Islamophobia hoax in America, exposed. The Islamophobic shooter of 3 Palestinians in Vermont actually supported Hamas. Say, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, welcome to 2024, because I'm telling you, and Joe Biden and Cringe on Pierre, they were all out there pounding the table, because this Islamophobic white, and undoubtedly he's a white guy that they arrested for shooting 3 Palestinians. So it didn't kill them, but wounded them. And it's a terrible thing to do, obviously. When 3 Arab Muslim students were shot and wounded in Burlington, Vermont. Burlington, Vermont used to be so nice. And then the left, look what they've done to Burlington, Vermont, to San Francisco. They elect Bernie Sanders there again and again and again in Vermont. What is the matter with these people? But they said it was the Islamophobic crime of the century. We're 24 years in, just barely. President Biden issued a statement declaring there is absolutely no place for violence or hate in America. And then they commenced to looting and burning police cars and attacking people everywhere, the Democrats did. Vice President Kamala Harris, remember her? She put out a statement, bemoaned the far too many people live with the fear that they could be targeted and attacked based on their beliefs or who they are. Speaking of which, that reminds me of the list at Johns Hopkins University of all the people that are privileged. White people, males, heterosexual people, Christians, English speakers, a lot of other ridiculous things. And those are the people that must be discriminated against. You guys spread hate based on race every morning when you get out of bed. Not always your own. So they put out statement after statement, and the Muslim men who are identified as Palestinians, 2 of them wearing keffiyehs, and then Kamala, the Palestinian headdress. And Kamala, like many other leftists, was implying that the gunman was anti-Palestinian. And Bernie Sanders was all over it because it was in Vermont. The idea that 3 young men walking down the street get shot, perhaps because of no other reason, they are Palestinian. But I gotta tell you, said Bernie Sanders, this is not just a local phenomenon. This is happening all over the country because America's bad. It's happening all over the filthy, rotten, murderous, blood-sopped Middle East is where it's happening. And to the extent that that stain has made its way to Western civilization of the United States, to a very limited extent, it happens here. But never mind that. So, and then, of course, Bernie Sanders attacked Israel because he's a communist and he honeymooned in the Soviet Union, literally, and all that stuff. And so they went crazy about it. Then
the President, First Lady, and everyone here at the White House join Americans across the country in praying for their full recovery. And we send our deepest condolences to their families and the broader Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim American communities.
Well, it turns out, surprise, surprise, the gunman is a pro-Hamas leftist. Obviously, if you're pro-Hamas in Vermont in 2023, in 2024, then it's because you're a leftist, you're a Democrat. He also appears to be a Biden supporter. Now, the news media will never follow up on this because they never do. But never mind that. Media outlets, anti-Israel activists, politicians attributed the shooting to the Hamas war and said, everybody from Biden, Kamala on down. So the Palestinian identities of the 3 young men that were shot, and they obviously shouldn't be shot, implied that Eaton, the guy that shot the 3 of them, had attacked them because he opposed the Palestinian cause. Well, in reality, the gunman, Eaton, supports the Palestinian cause, appears to be a Biden supporter because it's Democrats that are shooting everybody all over the damn place. And the news media should maybe start paying attention and pull their heads out of one another's dark and remote locations. End the conga line. But it turns out that this guy, Eaton, is Sir Dennis Eaton Hogg. Turns out that Eaton is James J. Eaton, resident. He's got a history of mental instability, another clear indication that he's a Democrat, right? Because is it that every Democrat is mentally ill, or is it just that every mentally ill person is a Democrat? Which is it? I hate to generalize. Pretty amazing stuff. But James J. Eaton, local resident, history of mental instability. And he shot these 3 guys, 2 of them wearing Palestinian headdresses, which shows their support for Hamas, right? So you might naturally come to the conclusion that this is because, but it turns out, no, he's a Biden supporting, Hamas supporter, and the whole story that made its way around the world was a lie, and now that we find out the truth, it will never be reported. Just amazing stuff. They passed a resolution at the Burlington City Council condemning this, and it's Islamophobia, and it's this, and it's that. He's a Hamas supporter. Why he shot the 3 guys, 2 of them wearing Palestinian headdresses, hard to say. He's just another Democrat with a gun, mentally disturbed, going around shooting people. Mentally unstable, left-leaning, opposed to America, supports Islamic terrorists. He's not Jewish. He's not pro-Israel. But pay no attention to that, right? Just crazy. And the pro-Hamas, now pro-Houthi rebels, too. Pro-Houthi rebels. The Democrat Party mob, my friends Pat and Christy, they took their daughter Bridget downtown on Saturday for her 20th birthday to dinner. And when they got there, they found themselves mired in the mob of thousands of genocidal anti-Semites who are Democrats, pro-Hamas, pro-radical Islamic terrorist jihadi, they're Democrats, pro-Houthi rebel violent mob at the White House. A riot forcing the evacuation of White House staff. Where do they always have bullhorns. They're yelling about murdering children. Next week, they're marching for Planned Parenthood because that makes sense to them. Rationally, intellectually, in their tiny little minds. We had to clean up some of that for you. The beep Joe Biden. But the Washington Post, March for Gaza rally draws thousands in D.C. on Saturday, and they tell us thousands of protesters gathered in downtown D.C. Saturday afternoon at a rally. It's a riot. They call it a rally because it's the left. Calling for a ceasefire in Gaza, calling for the survival of Hamas before Israel destroys Hamas, because the Democrats want to keep Hamas alive and they want to keep Hamas going. Right? And, you know, this is an amazing time we're in, the Democrat Party. The Washington Post types, a sea of black, green, red, and white flags. It's of black, green, red, and white flags. Those are the Palestinian flags, which represent Hamas right now, floated over the crowd in Freedom Plaza. They make it sound like it's a beautiful thing to see. Yes? A sea of black, green, red, and white flags floated over the crowd in Freedom Plaza, blocks from the White House, as the protesters chanted, "Free, free Palestine." Why don't you lead with F. Joe Biden? F. Joe Biden. That was one of their chants. But that's not in the Washington Post piece. And held picket signs with messages such as "Ceasefire now" and "End the war in Gaza." What about ending the war in Ukraine, where hundreds of thousands of people have been killed by the commie Putin, and it's all being funded by us? No, you notice there are no marches for a ceasefire in Ukraine. Why is that? Because they hate the Jews. That's why. They don't care about Ukraine. They don't care about hundreds of thousands dead. They don't have the intellectual capacity to understand what they're doing, most of them. What about the Houthis? You know, the Saudis have been at war with the Houthis for years now, and there have been way over 400,000 killed in Yemen in the dust-up between the Houthis, who violently took over the country and the government there. No calls for a ceasefire in Yemen, no calls for a ceasefire with the Houthis attacking shipping going into the Red Sea and headed toward the Suez Canal. Never mind that. They don't care about the death and destruction. They don't care about hundreds of thousands dead. It's the old Joseph Stalin thing. A single death is a tragedy. A million deaths are a statistic. And they could care less. And the Washington Post says, oh, they had flags, a sea of flags, Freedom Plaza. It was a rally. They were saying free, free Palestine and ceasefire now. Where's the evacuation of the White House part? Oh, it's not in the Washington Post story because the filthy, rotten liars, Tom Jackman, Olivia Diaz, Clarence Williams. Is that Clarence Williams the third or Clarence Williams the fourth? And Joe Heim typed up the story for the Washington Post, and they make it sound like this is just a wholesome event. The other signs accuse the Israeli government, got to turn against the Jews, of practicing apartheid. They were yelling about genocide, too, that the Jews are committing genocide. It's a special point designed to rub them the wrong way. And charge President Biden with genocide. Yeah, sure, that's it. The rally was part of a global day of protest that saw similar Palestinian marches in cities, including London, Rome, Paris, Dublin, Johannesburg, Kuala Lumpur. Demonstrators who arrived by the busload and streamed from metro stations expressed outrage over the ongoing war and U.S. support for Israel's bombing campaign. Now, I mean, again, hundreds of thousands dead in the Ukraine war. Not a march, not a peep, not a rally. The Democrats are for that because they're for the military-industrial complex and spending hundreds of billions of dollars on a war that probably has very little to do with our national interests or national security. But never mind that. And the signs that they were carrying, many of them professionally produced in print shops. and many of them with the Socialist Workers' Party identifier on them, because commies kill better than anyone. Just amazing. And they have Merveen Adwan, said she was born in Gaza but fled with her 3 children after a spate of violence in 2020 caused by them, and now lives in Montgomery County, Maryland, a commie hotbed. I've been living this life since I was born, Adwan said. Israel is committing genocide under the eyes of the whole world. Honestly, they're Nazis, and they're proud of it. And the Washington Post makes excuses for them and smooths over the violent riots. You're reading the Washington Post, you'd think that nothing unsavory happened. You wouldn't know that the White House was evacuated, that police were injured, that there was violence, that they're genocidal racists. And because they're on the left, you see, they enjoy the protection of the Democrat Party. As long as you're expressing solidarity with the oppressed, there are no rules for you. Those rules are set by the oppressor. Hey, it's Chris Plant, excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Visit chrisplantcruise.com. Yeah, the NFL also did a heck of a job over the weekend with the Ice Bowl in Kansas City. And, you have to sign up for a streaming service to get the game. And that a lot of people, including myself, not amused by that stunt by the NFL. Didn't go very well. But the Democrat Party jihad hit Washington over the weekend. And, going back and forth with my friend Marty over the weekend, they're literally waving a foreign flag, the Palestinian flag, at the White House, a violent mob attacking the White House, forcing the evacuation of the White House staff by the Secret Service. And, we haven't seen a mob like this with foreign flags attack the White House since the War of 1812, when the British came into Washington in 1814 and burned the White House. And also, remember the pro-Israel rally, the Jewish rally on the Mall, where there were like 27 million people? All right, there were 300,000 or 400,000 people on the Mall, and there was not a single act of violence. They didn't attack the White House. These are the civilized people. The Jewish people and this violent mob of Democrats and jihadis and Arabs and Muslims attacking the White House. Civilization is under assault on the planet Earth. We in the United States are in the crosshairs, and the Democrat Party has joined the war against us. The Democrats. Yeah, and honestly, remember the rally, the pro-Israel rally, the Jewish rally on the Mall. Say 300,000 people, maybe 400,000 people. Not a single violent incident. There were couple of Democrats hovering around the fringes like wolves waiting to prey on newborns, and the police were keeping a close eye on them. But that was all completely peaceful. No attack on the White House, no fires, no graffiti, no assaults, no people hiding their identities, no people with these, like this Qassam Brigade's patch on this psycho on Saturday at the White House. And all of this is fine because, the Democrats. Pretty amazing stuff. And again, my buddy Marty and I over the weekend just going on about what was happening at the White House and so on. And as long as you're expressing solidarity with the allegedly oppressed, there are no rules for you. And the left is out there violently attacking the White House, forcing the evacuation of the White House again. The last time the president had to be evacuated. Now, Joe Biden was at Camp David because he's living it's like endless summer. He should be going around the world surfing because he's on a nearly endless vacation and nothing good gets done. Have you noticed that? Speaking of which, his polling numbers are not so good either, are they? And I'll get to that But it's just amazing. You know, the 1814, the British attacked the White House and burned it. They were carrying British flags. Now the Democrats have Palestinian flags, a terrorist group, and they're attacking the White House, forcing the evacuation of White House personnel. In 2020, May and June of 2020, the Democrats spent 3 days attacking violently the White House, injuring 160 to 180 police, throwing M80s, that's an eighth of a stick of dynamite, at the police, frozen water bottles, setting the Church of the Presidents on fire, St. John's Church across from the White House, forcing the evacuation of the president and the first family to the bunker. And the news media actually made fun of Trump for being evacuated. He ran and hid in the bunker. Well, he could have taken a rifle and cleaned things up pretty good. Lickety-split, as Chaz Bono likes to say. But he didn't. So we got the, 1814. We've got the, compare it to the Jewish rally on the Mall with hundreds of thousands. And, it's about the oppressed. Amazing. Now, I mentioned the Joe Biden. I just want to hear that. I just want to hear that audio from the White House from Saturday because, the Democrats. They're attacking the White House again, forcing the evacuation of the White House staff. And the Washington Post treats it like it was a Boy Scout jamboree where everything is fine because the Washington Post lies about everything all the time. Are they all screaming? Where do they get these women? Are there women all mentally... I gotta tell you, you're Democrats. And in the meantime, they're defunding the police all over the country, appointing George Soros prosecutors who free the criminals. So, I don't know about where you live, but in Washington, D.C., we had a 26-year high in homicides for 2023, smashed the record, the all-time record for carjackings, and every single one of them is perpetrated by a Democrat. We don't have enough Republicans in Washington to commit even a single murder. And nobody's committing any carjackings that voted for Trump. Every stinking one of them is a Democrat. Every carjacking, every carjacker, Democrat. And in Chicago, the police department is down 2,400 officers. In Washington, D.C., we're down about 500 officers. We're a much smaller city. New York City is down 4,000 officers. Philadelphia is down 800 officers. Phoenix, Arizona is down 500 officers. Seattle is down 400 officers. Los Angeles is down 600 officers because Democrats defund the police and get more people murdered and robbed and carjacked, and it's their sons. The problem is not our guns, it's your sons. Stop raising murderers and criminals. Just a thought, not a sermon. Speaking of Joe Biden, ABC News is very unhappy about their new poll. I wonder what they said about it on their morning show because they've got a new poll at ABC Fake News, ABC Ipsos poll, and on Biden's job performance, a new record low of 33% for Joe Biden, 33% approval rating, 58% disapproval rating, ABC News poll. The Democrat Party has to get rid of him, and they know it. So overall approval rating of 33%. On the economy, his approval rating is 31%, even lower, 31%. 56% disapprove. On his handling of the border, drum roll please, ABC News Ipsos poll, Joe Biden has an 18%, 18% approval rating on his handling of the border. Isn't that amazing? And it's the ABC News, and they've got to be very sad, very, very sad about this. Today, it didn't come up on Good Morning America. It's bad news. We have a magic machine. It's bad news for Biden, And as you know, the most insidious power the media has is the power to ignore. The most insidious power the media has is the power to ignore. And they ignore a lot. The violence at the White House by them, the peaceful protest by the pro-Israel, and again, hundreds of thousands of people, not a handful of thousands of violent criminal jihadis wearing patches for the military branch of Hamas. And these are all Democrats, every filthy, stinking one of them. And they are filthy and they are stinking. I know, I go to these rallies. But we didn't go on Saturday, I've got to admit. But they've become so crazy. They're not as much fun as they used to be because they're all psychos. Let's take a phone call, Michael. Let's go to Jim, calling from Southwest Missouri. James, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Thank you, Chris. I
Hey,
love
Jim.
your show.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm a big believer in plain truths having a way of hiding in plain sight, and great truths hiding in plain sight. And one of the big lies that's still out there is that they've actually defunded the police departments. They just raided their budgets and diverted the funds into their cronies' nonprofits. It's theft, it's graft, and on an industrial scale, and it's theft. They've pillaged the police budgets and funneled it to their cronies. I would like to be proven otherwise, but I think that's what's going on.
Well, certainly they're not cutting budgets of cities. They're just cutting money going to the police.
Thank you. Well, I think they're diverting the funds to their pockets of themselves and their cronies. And I would like to see any evidence that one tax dollar has ever been refunded.
Right, of course. No, you make an important point, and the lefties they're skilled and deft at manipulating the language and the use of words, and they hand the words and the talking points to the corrupt, lazy, intellectually inept news media, and they parrot the talking points given to them by the left, which they call themselves the Democrat Party. Remember, Jim, the Democratic Party isn't. And remember, these aren't liberals. This is the left. But you make a very good point. And then as you say, well, you're defunding the police. Okay, so you're taking huge amounts of money out of police budgets. And so does that mean that the city budget is shrinking? And the answer is no. The answer is no in every instance. So that you're right, they're redirecting the money. They're taking the money away from the police, but you're right, they're sending it to left-wingers who have these so-called nonprofits from which they make enormous profits.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Good stuff. Where are you in Southwest Missouri?
Just outside of Lamar, extreme Southwest Missouri.
Very good.
KZRG.
Very good. Very nice. Very wonderful. I lived in KC-Mo for a while. I love Missouri and love KC-Mo. It's America.
Yes, sir. It sure is. It's literally the belly button of America.
That is great. Jim, thank you very much for the call. And it's a very important point because you're right. It's not as though, and they're taking money away from the police. And yeah, so by that measure, you can say they're defunding the police, right, Jim? But they're not reducing city spending. They're taking those dollars by the millions and millions. And if we had a news media and they were interested in holding the powerful accountable, then we would know where that money was going. And what was it? I saw a story today about a police department in California that has a $75,000 signing bonus for anybody that will agree to become a police officer. And the starting salary is, what I think, $113,000 a year. But people still won't sign up because the Democrat Party has so demonized the police, which is the end of civilization, by the way, because the thin blue line is the difference between civilization, a civilized society, and Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. And the Democrat Party wants Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, and we're getting pretty close because The Democrat Party is the party of anarchy. They're the party of chaos. It's extraordinary. Alameda, California, offering a $75,000 signing bonus, and they still can't get anybody to sign up. Just extraordinary. Alameda offered $75,000 bonus to new cops, and you still can't get people to sign up. And the starting salary, I believe I saw, was $113,000 a year. And because the Democrat Party is waging war against the police, violently attacking police, defunding police, reducing the number of police, we have more people dying on the streets, more people dying from murder, more people being robbed, more people being carjacked. And the Democrats consider that to be a success. They get back to transgenderizing 5-year-olds and all kinds of madness.
Surplus military equipment for law enforcement. They don't need that. The last thing you need is an up-armored Humvee coming into a neighborhood. It's like the military invading. They don't know anybody. They become the enemy. They're supposed to be protecting these people. So my generic point is that...
Do we agree that we can redirect some of the funding?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Redirect. You see, redirect, and that's you see they manipulate the language. That was the guy with the voice box. And redirect the money. When they say redirect the money, and they're in charge of where the money goes, where do you think the money goes? If we only had a legitimate fourth estate, a legitimate news media in the United States, how different things might be. The genius of the founders, the First Amendment, a free and fair press, is vital to the proper function of our constitutional republic. But a corrupt press, that's another thing altogether. There's an Albert Einstein quote that I like. It's engraved in the Albert Einstein Memorial in the stone, big bronze statue of Albert Einstein on the grounds of the National Academy of Sciences in Washington, D.C., and engraved in the base of the Einstein Memorial. The right to search for truth implies also a duty. One must not conceal any part of what one has recognized to be the truth. That's Albert Einstein. I'll take that. That is a quote by Albert Einstein that should hang in every newsroom in America. I actually have it taped on the wall here, a little printout in our studio, because it's such a great quote. That should be engraved in stone in every newsroom in America. And if our news media followed that Albert Einstein rule, boy, would we be in a better place as a country. Yes, sir. Much, much better place. I am telling you. All right, we've still got Iowa. We haven't gotten to Iowa because the caucuses are there today. I got some numbers for you and some interesting, the history of the Iowa caucuses and what it tells us about the future this year of the Republican Party and the presidential election. And we are at 888-630-9625. Also, Governor Pritzker from Illinois. This guy, the corpulent billionaire from Illinois, got that coming up. He's coming up as well. And the climate. Boy, I'm terrified by the climate. We had a dusting of snow today. I almost panicked. Also, Democrat governor in New York, Kathy Hochul, canceled the Buffalo Bills-Pittsburgh Steelers game, which is now going to be played today at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, because it was going to snow in Buffalo. I think they've been playing in the snow in Buffalo for some time now, but, we're becoming, what are we becoming? I don't think I can use the word on the radio with the FCC and everything. We're now is the time for the Germans to attack. We wouldn't liberate Normandy or anything now. Just amazing. All right, let's grab a phone call, shall we? So much to say. Let's see. Let's go to Betsy, calling from Kentucky. Betsy, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
I cannot tell you how happy I am to talk to you. I smile every morning, all the way through. In fact, I am in laughter. I am so happy. Not about what you're saying, because everything you're saying is terrible, But I was raised in Bethesda and had worked in D.C., and I'm so happy to be out of there.
That is hilarious. And you're living in Kentucky now, which is America.
Yes. And I know I don't have enough time to tell you how absolutely wonderful you are, and you brighten my day. And I am I have lived in Kentucky for 33 years. I worked in downtown D.C. for 6 years, raised in Bethesda, went to Walt Whitman, that progressive leftist. Oh, my gosh, I can see my mother now, and I understand. She was panicked about what I was learning, and that was in the 60s. I can't believe I didn't realize it.
Well, that is great. That is great stuff. Well, your mom was concerned back then. The 60s were a crazy time. I think we're in the process of outdoing the 60s now.
Yes, definitely. I am, I don't know. Sometimes I just want to throw up my hands and give up. And then I listen to you and I go, oh, there's hope. Oh, I can smile. I'm laughing my head off. This is wonderful, Chris. Thank you so much.
You are very kind. You just made my day. That is so nice to hear. What's not funny about all this, Betsy? It's honestly, we must laugh even in the most grim of times, Betsy. We've got to find a way to keep laughing through it all and not become angry and stew. Let them be the angry, crazy people stewing through it all, and we will smile, Betsy. We will be Americans, won't we? We'll be on the side of what is right and what is good, won't we?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for all your wit and wisdom.
You are great. Thanks, Betsy.